The golden age of piracy was a period in history where pirates and privateers could operate with relative freedom across the Caribbean, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. It lasted roughly from the late 1600s to the early 1700s. This video will cover some of the most notorious and infamous pirates of that time. Henry Morgan. Henry Morgan operated in an earlier period than many famous pirates and was part of the ongoing war between European empires, particularly England and Spain, over control of the Caribbean. As a privateer, Morgan was legally authorized by England to attack Spanish territories, making him both a military asset and a feared raider. He rose to prominence in the 1660s, organizing large-scale expeditions known as buccaneer raids. Sometimes he would even torch entire villages during raids, not only military targets. In one example, he burnt down an entire village after a failed siege out of anger. One of his most notable early victories was the capture of Portobello, a heavily fortified Spanish port in Panama, which he took with a relatively small force through surprise tactics and coordinated assaults. His most infamous campaign came in 1671, when he led a daring expedition across the Isthmus of Panama to attack Panama City, one of Spain's wealthiest colonial centers. The city was looted and largely destroyed, causing outrage across Europe. However, this attack came at a politically awkward time, as England and Spain had just signed a peace treaty. Morgan was arrested and sent to England, but instead of being punished harshly, he became something of a national hero. He was knighted by King Charles II and later appointed lieutenant governor of Jamaica, where he helped govern the colony and suppress piracy. Captain Kidd. Captain Kidd's story highlights how blurry the line between legal and illegal sea raiding could be in the late 1600s. In 1696, he was given a commission by English nobles and government officials to act as a privateer. This means he was essentially a licensed pirate. He was then tasked with hunting pirates and attacking enemy French ships in the Indian Ocean. However, the voyage quickly became troubled because he struggled to find legitimate targets, and his crew became more and more frustrated, as pirates were often paid only through captured loot. One of Captain Kidd's most infamous moments was when he dropped a heavy metal bucket on the head of a crewmate during an argument which killed him on the spot. This act actually later became a key charge at his trial. The most controversial moment of his career came when he seized the Quedagh Merchant, a valuable ship carrying goods from India. Although it had French connections, which could make it a legal target, its ownership was complicated, and many in England saw Kidd's actions as outright piracy. He was arrested upon arrival in England, largely because powerful political figures wanted to distance themselves from him. In 1701, he was tried and executed by hanging. However, that's not where his story ends. The rope reportedly snapped during the first attempt, which actually convinced some people that he should be free. However, he was hanged a second time, and his body was then displayed in an iron cage along the River Thames for years, serving as a grim warning to sailors about the consequences of piracy. Blackbeard. Bartholomew Roberts, known as Blackbeard, became the most successful pirate of the Golden Age almost by accident. In 1719, he was serving as a mate on a merchant ship when it was captured by pirates. Roberts was forced to join them, as many skilled sailors were, but he quickly proved himself capable and was elected captain after Davis was killed in an ambush. This was unusual, as pirate crews often chose their leaders democratically based on ability rather than background. Over the next 3 years, Roberts led an incredibly active and organized piracy campaign across the Atlantic, from the Caribbean to the coast of West Africa. He captured more than 400 ships, targeting major trade routes that carried goods like sugar and tobacco. Unlike the chaotic stereotype of pirates, Roberts enforced strict discipline through a written code of conduct which regulated behavior, distribution of loot, and even curfews. He also had a reputation for boldness, attacking well-defended convoys and even entering harbors to seize ships. His career ended in 1722 when the British warship HMS Swallow hunted him down off the coast of Africa. During the battle, Roberts was struck in the throat by grapeshot and killed instantly. His crew, following his orders, threw his body into the sea to prevent the British from capturing and displaying it, a common practice meant to avoid humiliation after death. Bonnet. Bonnet's story stands out because he did not fit the typical background of a pirate at all. Born into wealth in Barbados, he was a landowner and member of the colonial elite with no real experience at sea. Around 1717, for reasons that remain unclear, he decided to abandon his comfortable life and become a pirate. Unusually, he purchased a ship, which he named Revenge, and hired a crew rather than earning command through experience. He once tried to attack a French merchant ship but misjudged the wind and ran his own vessel aground. During the chaos, he attempted to rally his crew to fire on the enemy but accidentally shot and injured one of his own men, really highlighting his lack of naval knowledge. This only became a bigger problem when he was seriously wounded in an encounter with a Spanish warship. During his recovery, he encountered Blackbeard, who temporarily took control of his ship and crew, effectively sidelining Bonnet. Although Bonnet later resumed command, he struggled with leadership and decision-making. Like many pirates, he accepted a royal pardon when the British government offered amnesty, but he soon returned to piracy under the alias Captain Thomas in an attempt to avoid detection. He managed to capture several ships along the American coast, but lacked the skill to sustain long-term success. In 1718, colonial authorities in South Carolina captured him after a naval engagement. He attempted to escape from jail, but was quickly recaptured. After a trial, he was sentenced to death and hanged. Blackbeard. Blackbeard lived during the golden age of piracy, between 1650 and 1730, a time when European empires were constantly at war, and thousands of sailors were left unemployed and therefore turning to piracy. Blackbeard likely began as a privateer during the War of the Spanish Succession, legally attacking enemy ships for England, before becoming a full pirate around 1716. He first served under pirate captain Benjamin Hornigold, learning the trade before eventually taking command of his own fleet. His most famous ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was a captured French slave ship that he heavily armed, making it one of the most powerful pirate vessels of its time. Blackbeard was also known for his unpredictability and cruelty toward his own crew. In one story, he reportedly shot one of his own men just to remind the crew who was in charge and to maintain fear and discipline on board. Acts like this helped build his terrifying reputation, making both enemies and his own crew reluctant to challenge him. In 1718, he carried out his most famous act by blockading Charleston, South Carolina, one of the busiest ports in the American colonies, stopping ships and taking hostages until he was given a chest of medicine. Later that year, he accepted a royal pardon from the British government, which was a thing that would sometimes happen in an effort to reduce piracy, but would usually end up with the pirates going back to their old ways, which was no different for Blackbeard. This led Virginia's governor to send naval forces after him. In November 1718, he was cornered by Lieutenant Robert Maynard. During the brutal close-quarters battle, Blackbeard fought fiercely but was eventually overwhelmed and then shot several times before dying. His head was displayed on the ship as proof of his death. Thanks for watching. Consider leaving a like if you enjoyed.